now time for our first panel discussion. This is about generative AI and LLM in healthcare operations, challenges and their mitigation. Please join me welcome our moderator. We have Dr. Uma Nambiar, CEO, Bakshi Parthasarathi Hospital, IISc. On the panel with us is Mr. Siddharth Kamath, Hitachi Digital Services, Senior Director, Healthcare and Life Sciences Markets. Mr. Abhishek Sarkar, Director, Eli Lilly. And Mr. Sridhar Anjappa, Senior Manager, Infusion System Software R&D, Baxter. So this is the eminent panel with us today. Over to our moderator, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you, NASSCOM, for this panel, and I think we are covering the entire spectrum of healthcare here. So, I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. So, should we start with Siddharth? Introduce and then tell us about how you are using generative AI and LLMs in your workplace, so that could be the starting point for our discussions from here.
Hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Firstly, I want to express my gratefulness to be sharing this space with Dr. Uma, with Abhishek, with Sridhar, and many of you folks from the industry who are actually dedicating your lives towards advancing healthcare. At Hitachi Digital Services, my role is to work with the healthcare fraternity to turn their ambitious goals into reality. And as we know and as we've heard so far, healthcare is evolving at an unprecedented pace. And with the rise of AI, hashtag Dr. Devika, as well as generative AI, I think there is a tremendous opportunity here for us to make a difference. Coming to what I do, I think as a service integrator, I think our role is very pivotal in looking at this entire transformation. And before I go into some of the use cases, some of the problems that we are solving with Gen AI, I want to take a couple of steps back, because I've been told there is possibly an audience here who's very new to this entire concept. So to those who are in their journey, at the starting of the journey from an AI perspective, I think it all starts with a deep dive into your priorities, which could be better patient outcomes, it could be expediting drug delivery, or it could be operational gains. So you may have certain expectations of what an AI can do in terms of achieving those, but I think where I would come in, or where we would come in, is to help set the expectations in terms of refining or even defining what those priorities are. Once you have an vision, an enterprise AI vision, I think then it's all about identifying use cases, prioritizing those use cases, doing a quick assessment of your readiness, and then developing a roadmap. And then it's all about getting into an execution. You start with a pilot, you check and assess what the benefits are, and more importantly, you check on your readiness, whether you have data, whether you have infrastructure, and then you also qualify your LLM. And once you do that, then it's all about operationalizing it on a mass scale. So specifically what we are doing, what we've been able to do, what we've been able to deliver, I think one is from a provider's perspective, we've been able to help them automate the entire documentation process, which has actually taken off a lot of work for a doctor, reduces their administrative work, and also helps automate their back office systems. The second, we've been working with a payer where we've been able to help them on their underwriting process. Completely automated that from a documentation as well as from a follow-up and from a contact center perspective. So that's what we've been doing so far.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think excited to be a part of this panel led by Dr. Uma. Myself is Abhishek. I've been part of, I'm a leading AI and automation group at LLE and Company. As a group, right, I mean, we are drug manufacturers, pharmaceutical, drug discoverers, driven by the purpose of making life better for people all across the world. So as a group, right, I mean, we have embraced AI and generative AI very heavily. Of course, back almost 3 to 4 years back, we have been very heavily towards automation side of things. I know in the morning, there were discussion regarding deterministic, probabilistic aspect of operations and such as well. We were very much focused toward deterministic side of things. But over the course of since the ChatGPT launched, we essentially were focused very heavily towards generative AI and its use cases within the organization. So a couple of themes which we have been working on very heavily as a part of our group is mostly across authoring. I think as Siddharth mentioned, right? I mean, people who have been there as a part of the pharmaceutical, they know the amount of documentation, the amount of regulatory submission which needs to be prepared for, pushing the drugs to the market and so on and so forth. So that has been a very massive effort, and that used to be very manual. So we are definitely leveraging generative AI and the services which AI normally gives to automate at least the first draft of those documentation and such. So authoring is definitely one of the use cases which we are leveraging AI very heavily. The second is obviously conversations. Conversation could be in the form of internal conversations, or it could be based on the HCP conversations and so on and so forth. If you go and see, as a part of our group, right, we normally have Monjaro as one of the drugs. Monjaro.com has a chat bot which is up and running, and you will find that the engine which is working in the back end of a Monjaro.com chat bot, right, that is LLM driven itself. So that is just one of those examples, but there are many such chat bots, conversational AI capabilities which have been explored across the organization. The third one is in the field of monitoring. Because we definitely would want AI and generative AI to figure out what are the various aspects of deviations, anomalies, and so on and so forth. Of course, manufacturing. Since we have a huge demand of our drugs across the organization, across the globe itself, keeping our manufacturing down for unplanned maintenance, cost us a lot. So that is one of the reasons actually we are leveraging AI, generative AI for taking care of those maintenance, identifying those maintenance, preventing those maintenance, and so on and so forth. So I think these three are the ones. We also have assisting as one of the capabilities, and I think we have a lot of co-pilots which has already been launched. Of course, GitHub Copilot helps our technology organization to bring about efficiencies. We of course have our Microsoft Copilot, which is normally used for our everyday AI, and so on and so forth. So as a part of our equation, right, as a part of our organization, as I mentioned, we have embraced AI very heavily, and more than happy to share those aspects as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sridhar.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sridhar, and thank you for being part of this esteemed panel members team. I'm currently part of Baxter Healthcare organization. I lead infusion systems R&D organization. I have throughout my career, I've been working on R&D of medical devices, including endoscopy, orthopedics, dialysis, and now the infusion systems. So when it comes to adoption of AI within Baxter Healthcare, a little bit introduction about Baxter Healthcare portfolio so that I can relate to that where we are using. So Baxter provides a wide range of medical devices, starting from primary healthcare, which is diagnostic like diabetic retinotherapy, or hospital care products, including the beds, monitoring devices, infusion systems, the critical care, and the respiratory care used in ICU settings as well. So if you see that starting from the patient enters from the diagnostic till he'll be taken care of the critical care and discharged to an hospital care until discharge, we have a range of products end to end to take care. So one of our mission is also to go towards connected care. So we want to optimize the end-to-end clinical workflow with the help of AI, because today the topic is AI. That's been our vision. So far, I think including diabetic retinopathy detection, patient dropout detection in the dialysis therapies, infusion. One of the major challenges in infusion is medication errors, right? So the clinical workflow, there are enough possibilities that you will end up infusing a wrong medication or a wrong amount of medication or a medication to a wrong patient. So we work on reducing this medication errors as the main challenge. So that's one of the area we are specifically using AI as well. But again, all of these AI is right now is either a deep learning AI or our regular predictive AI, right? When it comes to generative AI or LLMs, that we are today's topic is. So today we are utilizing generative AI very significantly in our customer services, biomed service technicians to provide an interface. They can ask questions related to the customer. A customer can ask questions related to the products, and service technicians can ask questions related to the product and its diagnosis information. And we are working very rigorously on the clinical use cases, and we have a whole range of possibilities and use cases that we want to work with. Given, I think we talked about many use cases from the morning, including thyroid detection, claim analysis, discharge summary. If I tell, I think this is only a very surface of what really a generative AI can really do, and I think generative AI is much more powerful, and there are a lot that it can really achieve. So I think we, as a Baxter, realize that, and we are trying to get that solution to the field. Right?
Thank you. You know, I've been around in the healthcare industry for the last 40 years, and what I've seen is healthcare industry has usually been very late to adopt technology. And even with digital technology for a long time, that was the story. But somehow, after generative AI, the whole equation and the excitement seems to have changed. And a lot of people from healthcare and non-healthcare fields, they feel that a lot can be achieved in bettering our own healthcare. But just to bring us down to the ground reality, I'm going to segue from the question we had in the first session about misdiagnosis of breast cancer using AI. Okay. Just so that we are not putting the cart before the horse, I want to really see what is the realism of the excitement that you guys see in your fields. I know that you are already at 30,000, 40,000 feet and you're trying to look down from there, but can we just start walking the ground in this session?
So mainly, if I look at what kind of challenges, in order to, get to the forbidden fruit, right? I'll keep the cultural part aside. I'll focus primarily on the technology. So I think one is, from our experience, there's a lot of integration that's involved in order to get that data. And in the process of that integration, I think what we've discovered is a lot of legacy systems, and they pose their own challenges, from a technology standpoint. Of course, if I compare to that challenge, last year, I think it's a lot better because technology has evolved. There are a lot more offerings from an API perspective that offer better integration. But then still there is always a risk of availability of these legacy systems, and also the data is fragmented. Speaking about data, that's the second challenge. You need a lot of data for these models to consume. And you first want to figure out if there is data available. And let's say there is data available. I think the second thing you want to figure out, what's your source of data? And if you figure that out, then the third thing is, what's the quality of data? So in many cases, we figured out that there is no data strategy in place, there is no data management in place, there's no governance in place, as a result of which, there have been hallucinations. The third one is, I think the technology is still evolving. If I look at it from a LLM perspective, I'm sure there is an LLM that is probably going to do good for a retail industry. I'm sure there is an LLM that's going to do good for um, the banking and financial services, but if I'm going to look at something that is very contextually aware from a medical perspective, I still think that space is evolving, and also all the ecosystem to support that, to operationalize it, to scale it to the extent that we want to, I think that is still at an early stage.
That's a very pertinent question. I think so. As a part of our adoption journey, as part of generative AI, right? I mean, we underwent definitely a cycle of adoption, trustworthiness, selling our solution to our consumers, stakeholders, you know, changing our technology landscape as well while we build those solutions to the requirements and so on and so forth. One of the underlying basic aspect, of course, for AI solutions to work properly is data. I think as was alluded by Siddharth itself. I think as a part of our organization, right, we somehow have a very strong data foundation. We have worked over the course of last couple of years in our enterprise data lake, which has culmination consolidation of all the data across the organization. Though the data is still getting generated, but we some are in a better place versus others, versus our competitors and many of the other organizations as well. The second part is still the aspect of contextual knowledge and such, right? The hallucination normally plays a very critical role. We have, I think after certain accuracy rates, there are serious causes of hallucination which normally happens in the conversational AI, in any of the authoring solution which you normally create, and so on and so forth. So that normally I think holds the adoption at times. I think we have grown ourselves from having 80% accuracy rate to almost 95% accuracy rate, and so on and so forth. There are ways where we can evaluate those models. We can essentially add citation sources for taking care of the ground truth, and so on and so forth. So we have gone through those cycle as a part of a solutioning. And the third part is possibly a bit of a culture aspect as well. I think it was mentioned in the morning session regarding the OCM part, right, the change management part of it, making sure that the stakeholders very comfortable with adopting AI as a part of the equation, as a part of the solution, as a part of our daily process, and so on and so forth as well. I think we have rolled out Microsoft Copilot. Microsoft Copilot does a lot of administrative work for all the individuals across the organization, but still the adoption rate within our organization is still a bit lesser. We are trying to change, mold those aspects of adoption, and culture aspect, and so on and so forth as well. But this has been a journey. But the aspect which needs to be recognized is the technology is eventually so strong, or the transformational, that possibly those aspects and those challenges essentially is going to be overcome. So I think 1 year later, 1.5 years later, right? I mean, the adoption rate, the accuracy rates, the challenges essentially will be in a much better position as compared to how we are right now, and that's how we see things.
Thank you. I think I agree with most of the challenges both panel members mentioned. I can just want to add on. I think being a company like Baxter, I think data challenge, we have already figured it out. I think it's that is challenge. I think I call it a data strategy. It's a multi-year strategy that you need to plan, and how do you accumulate, how do you modify, and keep the data in a disciplined way. I see the challenges actually as a collaboration. I see in the three pieces. One is the technology and the solution itself, the capability of technology solution to build a capable solution in generative AI. Second is understanding of the right product development process, the excellence, the regulatory understanding, the standards understanding, how do you perform a risk assessment for applications like generative AI, how do you verify it, how do you validate it. This is a whole new challenge, because this is a product which is going to go into the healthcare clinical workflow settings, and we never tried this, that how it's going to behave in that environment. Right? So the second challenge. The third challenge is the third challenge is the domain knowledge of it. Like, where do I use this particular solution in this process, in what clinical workflow, right? In what hospital, what patient outcome, or what real hospital staff problem it's going to solve. So now these three brings from three different groups of people, right, which is right now in this audience. There is the hospital staff and a startup who actually have this technological knowledge and the solution and capability that how to generate or develop a generative AI application quickly, and a corporate who is well aware of all this process end to end to how to take such kind of solution to a market which can be used in a safely and reliably on a patient or clinical care settings, right? So I think so this is a great platform. I think we need to figure out a way how do we bring in all these group together to develop a solution. I think that's probably the major challenge that we need to address.
Yeah, thank you all of you, because I think the common denominator for all the problems that we saw was data, and I would like to add that although organizations wide they are trying to solve their own data challenges, but I think as a nation we don't have data sets which are pertaining to the Indian population, and unless we have Indian patient-centric ethnic population-based data sets made openly available in a de-identified format to the researchers and technology solution providers, we will not be able to make a progress. So I think that is something which I would put it in Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra's bucket from here, because he can't just ask us to come here and speak. He needs to take back some homework as well. Okay. Now for the second round, I'm going to change the format a bit. It is not as pessimistic as it, we just made to look like in the last round. There is a lot of future, and it is the technology of the future. We need to embrace it. So the first question will be from the audience about the opportunities that you perceive, which are offered by the generative AI. One question from the audience, and the closing remark on the same from my panelists. Yeah, whoever. Don't tell me that there is no one asking a question here. There is one? Yeah, please.
So in that recent article, there was a case where one of the CIO and the investor saying that the ROI from AI is not visible. It takes $30 per user that AWS Google charges. Right now. How do we solve that problem? Well, we don't have a data set. But also realizing the benefit of technology we have and to pay. How the entire ecosystem can collaborate. Right? The vision into a reality. Over to you guys.
Yeah. Okay. The last question of converting the vision into reality and the future, my panelists will answer. ROI of technology. Can anybody here monetize human life and tell me the value of human life? Technology works in healthcare to save human lives. If anybody thinks that that's not ROI enough, then I don't know what is. So next, over to. We can start from Sridhar. Yeah. Start from there.
To the question that realizing from go to the reality, right? Visualizing our dream. I think, like ma'am said, one is the cost is versus the benefit, right? I think today only I read the article that because of so much competition we have today regarding the models that we are developing, the cost is coming down, and some of us who actually knows its value is adopting. In my case, I think in my laptop, which is actually probably 16 GB RAM, I have 2-3 models running, right? Although it takes few seconds to respond back to me. So I have my personalized financial assistant, my personalized travel assistant, who can I can put my private data into it and train it. Right? I have a model even I can train my personality on it and answer on behalf of me. Right? To your question, the challenge of having $30, $40 on AWS probably will eventually go down like any other technology, and the value addition also will be realized very soon. I think just because of this session today, many of us I think probably realize that value it is going to add, right? So I think that's what is going to continue happening. I think this is just like our big data and our cloud when we had our software as service. We had the same questions. Hey, why do I go to cloud? I have to pay so much, but I can have maintain everything in my house. I think it over a period. I think very rare that I have maintain my own in-premises devices today in my organization, right? Everything, all my data, everything is managing from the cloud. I think this is going to be the reality for the generative AI or any AI model as well. I think for me, it's just a matter of time. I think what we have to do is embrace that and continue working hard to provide that, enable that more value added solutions to the market. I think that will automatically bring down the cost as well.
No, I completely second to what Sridhar mentioned, right? I mean, I'll answer that in two steps. One is, the possibly playing the balancing act. Of course, AI is definitely is on the peak of the hype curve. I think there is of course a lot of promise of what it can do, what it can't do, what are the various things which is possible in the future, and so on and so forth as well, right? So especially the AI leads and such, right? They have a pretty hard job in I think making sure that the expectation of AI and also the realism of AI has been taken care. So playing that balancing act is so very critical for leaders to make sure that we essentially are telling the right story and positioning the technology and the benefits which it is going to achieve itself. But the second part is of course the promise of it. I think just to cite an example, right? As a part of our organization, one of the major goal which we have is accelerate reach and scale. So I think we definitely would want to reach out to I think 120 million patients by 2030, or I think significantly improve increase our manufacturing basis so that we are able to serve our patients through the demands of drugs and so on and so forth as well, right? So these two are the various aspects. And also one of the initiatives which we're working as a part of a group is could AI generate the regulatory scientist responses for a question which normally comes from FDA. So typically, right, I mean, these used to take around 2 months, 3 months, because you have for every responses, right? I mean, the regulatory scientist has to skim through huge number of documents to figure out what is the responses, what essentially is the right call, what is the historical response which has happened 20 years back, 30 years back, and so on and so forth. Now through churning through those documentation, right, we are able to respond that within a day itself. So that has been a giant leap in our organization journey itself. How do you measure it? Of course, from a time saving, I think, and the promise that it is going to achieve the ARS goals or whatever the goals which the organization has in the longer run as well. So I'll say that in both these aspects, balancing act along with the promise which we have for the future of the technology.
So I want to talk about the opportunities, right? So we'll try to keep it on an optimistic ending note. And I'll talk about 3 things. I won't go very far. I think all those 3 aspects are something that we have seen today in the last 4 hours. Okay, one is from a patient's perspective. I think that was an opening thing that Mr. Sanjeev demonstrated, right? How things are going to be from a patient's perspective very personalized. And when I say personalized treatment, you're going to start having therapies which are things like cell and gene, which are going to be radioligand, where these treatments have a 48 to 72 hour timeline. So the patient is going to know when these treatments are going to be ready, available, and where. Second, from a doctor's perspective, I think there was a comment earlier, sab AI karega to doctor kya karega? I think what will happen is when this becomes a little more mainstream, it's going to free up a lot of bandwidth for the doctor. And he or she is going to be able to have time to focus on, something more novel or a rare disease or something that requires special attention that not many of us are aware of. So I think that is how it's going to benefit, and this is purely from a doctor's perspective. But all of this comes with, another question that had come up earlier, right, about misdiagnosis. All of this comes with 2 important aspects. One is there bias? And second is, is it transparent, right? So that's where ethical AI is going to come into picture, right? So you're going to have a model for a model. I think that is the next step, next evolution that is going to come, where it is going to figure out if these models are reducing bias, and is also going to make sure the decision making rationale is transparent to the user. So I'll just conclude with those 3 things.
Thank you so much. And I think we will conclude this panel. Should I take one more question? We are actually run out of time. And thank you, all of you, for an exciting session. I hope this sets the trend for the day. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. May I request Mr. Sudhanshu Nipal to please join us on stage and felicitate our panelists. Can we hear that for them, please? Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. Ma'am, thank you so much. We hope you found that useful. If you did, then please join us, give them a warm round of applause for that.